Northwestern State University is honored today to have as its commencement speaker Dr. Sandra Woodley, President of the University of Louisiana System. Northwestern is part of that system, which includes 8 other universities in every part of the state. The University of Louisiana System is the largest in the state, with more than 92,000 students and a total operating budget of $762 million. Dr. Woodley, who is in her first year as president of the system, is eminently qualified for that position and its extensive and significant responsibilities. She has been at the forefront of strategic planning, budgeting, and administrative initiatives at state higher education system offices in Texas, Arizona, Kentucky, and Alabama, and has also been a financial analyst for the Alabama Legislative Fiscal Office. As the liaison for the Chancellor of the University of Texas System to the state's Board of Regents task forces on blended and online learning and university excellence and productivity, Dr. Woodley was a leader in designing and implementing a nationally recognized system to track progress, diagnose challenges, and provide policy research to enhance decisions in achieving goals in higher education. Her valuable experience and expertise in higher education and her academic credentials that include bachelor and master's degrees from Auburn University and a doctorate from Nova Southeastern University have prepared Dr. Woodley for the challenges of guiding Louisiana's largest university system. We at Northwestern, who have had the pleasure of working with Dr. Woodley in recent months, have been impressed with her enthusiasm, insight, knowledge, and sincere interest in our university. And it is a privilege to have her on campus today to serve as speaker for these commencement ceremonies. Please welcome Dr. Sandra Woodley.
So there was this girl from a very small town who grew up deep in the South. You know, the kind of place where Friday night football and Sunday school and fried chicken on Sunday afternoon were about the most important topics of conversation in the community. This particular girl never really intended to go to college. Nobody in her family had before her. She graduated from high school and got married when she was 18 years old. She found herself in her early 20s with 2 small children and a very difficult situation, not many prospects before her. Times were very difficult for her and her family financially, and it became evident very quickly that pursuing an education was something that she not only needed to do, but wanted very much to accomplish. She started at the community college, she went to school. She had to work almost a full-time job to pay for her education. She not only had to pay tuition, but as a mom of 2 children, she had to pay for diapers. She had to pay for childcare when she was in class. She had to pay rent and buy formula. It would end up taking this girl 10 years and those 2 babies to earn her baccalaureate degree. Her hard work did pay off. She would steadily rise to earn executive positions in 5 university systems over the next 2 decades, and in fact, before her 50th birthday, she would be named the president of the University of Louisiana System. Yes, that small town girl is me. And this is my story. And as I look across the room and I look at this group of very happy faces before me in the graduates, I imagine that some of your stories are very similar to mine. Some of your stories may be more like my own daughter, Leah, who graduated in 4 years from Auburn University. Unlike me, she didn't have to work a full-time job. She was able to get her degree and be a positive statistic for that institution. Leah made better choices than me, but I managed to overcome those challenges and be successful as well. And if you are the first in your family here today to graduate from college, raise your hand. We have a few first-time graduates. If you cared for your own children as an adult while going to college, raise your hand. If, like Leah, you made better choices rolling in and you graduated within 6 years, raise your hand. Well, congratulations all around. We have so much to be proud of and so much to be thankful for, and I know the families here representing the students are just so proud of the determination that it took to be in this place today, to have this accomplishment. You know, and I think it's important today to bring out just a few of the many stories in this room that are inspiring. Jennifer Perkins is here today. She actually started work for the sheriff's office as a single mom in her 30s at a clerical position. And today, Jennifer not only completes her degree, but she has in the meantime risen to assistant director. And I actually have it on good information that the Natchitoches Parish Sheriff's Office would gladly take 30 Jennifers if they could get them. This fall, she will be studying in Northwestern's graduate program in Homeland Security. Jennifer, stand up. We also have a computer scientist among us, Stephen Thompson. He's been part of Northwestern State team that finished first in the nation in the Association of Information Technology Professionals National Collegiate Conference. He developed an app, and what isn't there an app for these days? But he developed an app that will be field tested this summer by the National Center for Preservation Technology and Training for use at sites damaged by Hurricane Sandy. Let's hear it for Stephen Thompson. Amelia Bertrand, I hope I pronounced that correctly, is graduating today with a degree in psychology. She found the time to volunteer more than 1,000 hours and tutor at the elementary school. And she also spent time helping those who were victims of domestic violence. She's been also worked to promote local youth advocacy, health, and literacy programs. Let's congratulate Amelia. I am so inspired by these amazing stories, and I know that all of these stories really only scratch the surface of the 800 or more stories that will be represented here today, and I wish we had time to go through all of them. But you should all be proud of the accomplishments that you have been able to accrue. I think a common thread among these stories, those that were told today and those that remain untold, is the pursuit of excellence, the real pursuit of excellence, not the false PR kind of excellence, but the honest, real, and hard-earned achievement of excellence that's represented in this room. But how do we really achieve excellence in our lives? I can think of so much advice to give you, so many lessons that I've learned in my 50 years of also trying hard to pursue excellence in my own life. But because I like you and because I wish for you to like me, I will keep it short and share only just a few tricks of my trade. My first piece of advice is that, an observation is that determination trumps almost everything else. I mean, how many of us have spent our time in our lives knowing people who had superior intellectual capacity and amazing credentials, but who really never were able to achieve their full potential? You know, we spend so much time thinking about credentials and scores, IQ tests and ACT scores. I'll give you a small example from my past. When I was about 8 years old, my brother and I were given IQ tests. My dad thought that would be a good idea for some reason. And we were given IQ tests, and when the tests were completed, you know, I can remember very clearly how much fanfare there was over my brother's IQ score. It was apparently off the charts. And he was quite a genius, very, very, very smart. He used to devour books, and he would literally, and I'm not exaggerating, read the dictionary just for fun. That's what he did. And so there was, you know, parties, and there was cake over my brother's IQ score, and we were all very proud of him. And as I think back, I don't remember even the slight mention of what my IQ score was. Maybe I'm happy not to know what my IQ score was. I like to think that it was at least average, but mercifully I don't have that information. Robbie struggled in his life. He was very smart and very intellectual, and it took him many, many years to sort of see his stride. He was unmotivated in a way. He lacked the determination in many ways. It had been easy for him with his intellect to be able to sort of coast. I remember him sleeping through algebra class and making straight A's, and that was not the story for me. Robbie did end up finding his way, and in his 40s he ended up going back to school and earning a nursing degree and became an ER nurse. And he was so happy and fulfilled when he was able to finally put that into gear. We lost him in a motorcycle accident a few years ago, but the last 2 years of his life he really did work hard. For me, determination did trump everything else. Even with my average IQ, I was able to rise above some poor choices early in my life. As I mentioned, when I was in high school, I really didn't plan to go to college. So one of the things I failed to do was take very much math. In fact, I only took one algebra class, and I didn't really do very well in that, and that's an understatement for the record. When I did finally decide to go to college, I started in the community college. I never took the ACT test either, but I was very determined to go. I knew what it would mean for me and my family for me to complete college. And so I did go to college. I ended up with a 4.0 GPA through most of my community college pursuits, and then came algebra. So at the end of my community college time, I took my algebra test, and I remember very clearly the day I got my first test back and had this big red 63F on the paper. I was mortified. I cried, I sobbed, I was ready to quit, but fortunately I did not quit. With encouragement of faculty members, I got back up on the horse, and I worked very hard, harder than I have ever worked to pull that F up, in fact harder than I've ever worked since. I managed to get that grade up to a C, and it would end up being the only C that I would ever make in all of my college days, and I was more proud of that C than all of the many A's that would come afterwards. Determination trumps almost everything else. The second piece of advice I would give to you is to give yourself the gift of self-honesty. This is a hard one. It's hard to be brutally honest with yourself about things that you are good at and things that you are not good at. But if it is your intention to strive to truly be excellent, you cannot achieve that unless you are willing to identify what's holding you back and take steps to fix it. Ironically, I think it's true that most of the time, the thing that is our strength is also the very thing that becomes our weakness. When I worked for one of the systems, I found myself in a position where things became very tense. It wasn't about me personally, but through some sort of political war that was going on, and me being in the middle, I was worried very much about being collateral damage, and it was a real possibility at that particular time. But what I learned about myself was, you know, one of my strengths has always been, I have a strong personality. I've not ever been described as a shrinking violet. I tend to be assertive and strong about the things I feel strongly about. And I think that's a strength of mine. But in this particular situation, it was definitely a weakness. I found myself worrying that if I don't dial it back a little bit, I'm not going to have a job. It's really hard to be effective in your job if you don't have one any longer. I went to my boss and I said, look, I need a coach. You got to hire me a coach. I have to be able to find a way to moderate what could be a strength for me that could very quickly turn into a weakness. And I was able to improve enough to keep my job. So that's good advice, I hope, for you. The third thing is to actively seek conflicting viewpoints. I think it's very easy for us to fall into a comfort zone, to only seek out opinions that are similar to us. And coming from a small town, I think it is true that sometimes it can very easily turn into myopia, where you surround yourself only with those who have the same political views, and only those who have the same religious views, and only those who have the same opinions. And one of the things that I think is most valuable about college is that you are forced into a situation where you are exposed directly to different cultures and different thought processes and different ideas. And I think if you really want to achieve excellence, embrace that. Seek out opinions that are different from your own. Learn by them. Change your mind if the evidence warrants it. I know as I'm looking through and thinking about all of the many presidential campaigns and the local campaigns that we've had over the years, candidates generally do get bashed for changing their mind. Flip-floppers, I think they call them. Well, here's what I think. If you have a commander-in-chief who can't change their mind when given better evidence, then I don't want that person leading my country. So I think this is a lesson to us. We need to seek out conflicting viewpoints and we need to learn from the evidence. And my final piece of advice to you is one that I think you may recognize from your mother, we're getting close to Mother's Day, from your grandmothers, and I guarantee you heard it more than once, maybe probably 30 times in a month from your kindergarten teacher. And that is simply, be nice. I saw an interview not too long ago from a CEO of a major hospitality company. I think he ran restaurant organizations and hotels. And he said when he looked for talent and he interviewed, he did look at the credentials and certainly he looked at the background and the skills of the candidate. He said, but he always snuck in a question right in the middle to surprise the people that were interviewing with him. And he would simply ask the question on the spur of a moment. He would say to them, are you a nice person? And he said it was always awkward and everyone sort of fumbled around to be able to try to answer that question. It was never expected. And then of course he rescued them and he said, look, I don't really expect you to tell me that you're not a nice person, but I want you to know that you're not going to fit in here in this organization. You will fail if you can't get along with other people and be genuinely nice. And I think that's good advice to us as well. That's all I have. My last piece of advice is if you ever are called on to do a commencement speech, keep it short. Congratulations.